Here's some rumor control in the case of the Idaho college shooting Sunday, December 11th. There have been recent rumors online that one of the Idaho college student victims bullied another woman into taking her life. The rumor is that Hannah Cleary, the woman who took her own life, was an ex-roommate of one of the Idaho victims. The claims being made are that they bullied and harassed Hannah into taking her own life. There was a comment left under one of Maddie's pictures after Maddie had passed away regarding the incident. It said, quote, "You deserve everything that happened to you, especially after what you did to that poor girl. You elitists are all the same. I'll be reserving my spit once they properly bury you." At this time, there is absolutely no proof that any of these theories hold up. Again, these are just theories and rumors. Currently, the only provable, factual part of this story is that Hannah Cleary unfortunately did take her own life. In addition, there is also a recording going around claiming that the neighbor was able to capture one of the roommate's screams. This video is also completely fabricated. There is a neighbor that claims he heard screaming, but none of it was recorded. There was also a neighbor that claimed they saw the door open around 8 a.m. the day the crime took place. However, the chief of police stated that this is news to them and they have no comment on it whether it was open or unopened. I'll have a full case review for you guys tonight. What do you think? Drop in the comments. Breaking news, Kaylee's father has now stated that the victims had, quote, big open gouges. He stated that the victims had, quote, big open gouges and that this was the work of a sadistic male. He also called authorities cowards for not sharing more information with the public. He stated when he asked the coroner how many times the victims had been stabbed, this was her response. Quote, "She says, sir, I don't think stabbed is the right word. It was more like tears. This was a strong weapon, not like a stab." He goes on to state that she said this was quick and that you would have not been able to call 911 during the crime. Authorities have not named a suspect, nor have they found a weapon in the case. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
It's closing in. We're gonna see some arrests maybe this week. The cops are very focused on the Hyundai Elantra at this point because they need DNA evidence. They need a murder weapon. I think they know full well at this point who the main perpetrators are, but I think there are a lot of people involved. We only have about 5% of the information that the police probably have. And even the information that we have is so complex and conflicting because all of these people's lives were so intertwined. These kids all lived within a stone's throw of each other. They didn't really have privacy. They had very public, intertwined lives. That's what makes it ultimately impossible that nobody heard anything, nobody saw anything, nobody knows anything. Impossible. Have Kaylee's father on camera saying that there were noticeable changes in the victim's behavior before the crime happened. The victims, as in the other roommates? Why are all the roommate rumors focused on Dylan and her boyfriend and nothing's being said about Bethany? These rumors don't come from nowhere. They come from people that know these kids. Then we have Jack Kadovich, who was the last person that Ethan Venmo'd before he died.
That someone paid Jack's sister that day and captioned it 3:30 a.m.
Food truck guy, Jack Shoalwater, that seems like he was being a good guy and looking out for them at the food truck, but then they kind of ditched out on him on purpose. But maybe it's because Kaylee was back for that one night and she wanted to hang out with her ex-boyfriend, Jack. Supposedly, Jack, the ex-boyfriend, lived directly across the street from her in this apartment complex, and the community is so tight-knit, he knew that she was coming back for that night and probably was expecting a call from her, so it's kind of weird that he didn't answer. Supposedly, his alibi was that he was upstairs sleeping and his roommates were playing video games all night, so they would have seen him come down. But look at where his apartment is. Like, you could just walk off the roof. We see them all on the roof. You can just walk down to the ground, into the woods, and get into the house. Now we have the 4chan post that's implicating the two David. Here we got David Loach. It looks like he's sitting on that black couch that's in the backyard. And then we got the other David who's posting a lot of incel content like this. Whoever did this would have been covered in blood, but we don't see blood trails coming outside either of the doors, so they had to have changed or showered. And who would have the confidence to do that unless they warned the roommates? Why was Xana's dad there fixing the lock the weekend before? Did something happen? Who was Kaylee fanatically texting with at the food truck? Was that Jack? And then when she got home, he didn't answer her phone calls? But the way that these people's lives are so intertwined, the way that they live right on top of each other, the way that everyone in that 4chan post knew everything about these people. It's certainly someone that's in the inner circle. Was the 4chan post a diversion so that the police think that the murder weapon's at Garden City and they stop looking for the Hyundai Elantra? I think we're gonna find out just how corrupt that fraternity is in the next few days, and we're gonna be surprised by how many people knew about it.
On October 10th, 2019, Joe Elledge told police that he had gone to sleep with his wife, Meng Shi Ji, on October 8th. He said that when he woke up on October 9th, she was gone.
At the time that Munchie G disappeared, she was a young married mother. She had a child who was 1 year old.
Meng Shi had moved from China to Columbia, Missouri in 2012 to finish up her undergraduate studies at the University of Missouri. Meng Shi's ritual was a daily phone call that she had with her mother in China. When Meng Shi didn't call her mother on October 9th, 2019, her parents sent a friend to check on her.
I told him everything that happened. I told him that she just hasn't been here.
It wasn't until after that visit that Joe decided to call the police.
I need to file a missing person report.
Joe told police that the previous day he had woken up and found his wife missing. Then, he went on 2 long drives in Meng Shi's car, looking for new hiking trails.
There's just this big area that's all green on the Google Maps. And so I wanted to go and see if there were walking paths back there.
Naturally, that raised eyebrows. Detectives searched through Joe's apartment, and on a hunch, police took in a pair of Joe's muddy boots as evidence.
Just in case down the road they might be relevant.
Something was amiss, yes, and they sensed it, and they took them.
Despite Meng Shi's whereabouts still being unknown, District Attorney Dan Knight took a chance and filed first-degree murder charges against Joe Elledge. A year later, a hiker making his way through a wooded area stumbled upon a purse that lay in the dirt.
He had this walking stick, and he kind of flipped that purse around just a little bit. He noticed that there were these shoes, and then he saw something that looked like was maybe a skull. And in fact, it was the skull, Meng Shi's skull.
She had finally been found.
That's right. That's right. It was a miracle.
Dan Knight was building evidence against Joe Elledge and noticed that his cell phone records put him near Meng Shi's burial site the day he reported her missing.
What were the weather conditions like that day?
Unfortunately for Joe, but fortunately for justice, it was raining.
Dan remembered those muddy boots found at Joe's apartment, and that hunch investigators had about them was about to pay off.
So we've got 12 different types of vegetation in these boots.
Joe's boots were sent out for analysis at a lab at the Missouri Botanical Garden, where juniper tree needles were carefully removed from the soles for DNA testing.
They wanted to see if there was some way that we could match the vegetation in the boots to the site where a woman's remains were found. These are 2 samples that were collected from the left boot right here. Once we knew that we could get usable DNA out of the forensic samples that we took from the boots, then we needed to match them to the trees at the site.
Missouri Botanical Garden assistant scientist Alex Lignan was tasked with collecting sample needles from the juniper trees surrounding Meng Shi's gravesite.
Plants have DNA, just like people.
Absolutely, yeah. Every living organism on the planet has DNA.
Back at the lab, the needles were compared to the needles found on Joe's boots.
These 2 lines here are the genotype of one of the samples from the boot. And this one is from the tree that is overhanging the gravesite. And as you can see, the lines match up.
And that moment for you when you realized you had a match?
Yeah, it was really exciting. We got him. He was there.
No doubt he was there.
No doubt in my mind, he was there.
Scientifically confirmed.
Yes.
Just like a fingerprint, just like DNA, blood DNA that is presented in trial, this is just as reliable.
Exactly the same technology even.
So what you're telling me is these trees that are all around us here played a role in solving a murder?
Absolutely, yes.
Break with what I've built. I can't go on without you. I hope you feel the same mood. The caption on the main page, I won't be locked in your cage. I can't go on without you. I hope you feel the same mood. Your kiss I need. The caption on the main page, I won't be locked in your cage. Break with what I've built. I can't go on without you. I hope you feel the same mood.
We are finally getting some very hard to come by details on the case of the 4 infants who were found deceased in this Boston condominium. And if you're saying you don't remember hearing about this case, you would certainly be forgiven. Because for some reason, at least in my opinion, it seems the police and the media are trying to really keep this on the down low. But fret not, because I'm going to continue covering this case on my page. So for those of you who are not familiar with this case, on November 17th and 18th, 4 infants were found deceased inside a freezer in this home. When I first heard of this, I thought this was going to be a major news story, but for some reason this case never got the media attention you may expect. Now, a month out from this discovery, police have still not released a cause of death or any suspects. However, we now know who owned the unit where the bodies were discovered and how the discovery came about. Alexis Aldemir bought the unit in 1983 and had recently been taking care of her mother, who also lived in a unit in the same condominium. All seemed normal until earlier this year when a neighbor noticed a gas smell on August 15th coming from Aldemir's unit. When police entered the unit, they found Alexis disoriented and confused and with a gas stove running inside the room. Alexis was ultimately diagnosed with dementia and sent to live in a medical care facility. Alexis's mother, Jeanette, whom she took care of, was moved into a nursing home. And that leads us to the discovery of these 4 frozen infants. On August 17th, Alexis's brother arrived in South Boston to clean out the units of his sister and his mother. Supposedly, while cleaning out Alexis's unit, he noticed something odd in the freezer. Among further examination, he realized what he found was a deceased infant wrapped in tinfoil inside of a box. He immediately contacted the police, and among their investigation, they found 3 additional infants also in the freezer wrapped in tinfoil. All we know about the infants at this point is that it was 2 boys and 2 girls. I just believe this case deserves more attention, so I'm going to keep you updated on my page if anything new comes out.